Hello and welcome to Two Girls in a Pod. I am Sharon.
I'm Christy.
Hope all of you are doing well. Wow, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
That was quite a sigh.
A lot of stuff going on, a lot of wind going around today. Just, yeah.
Uh, we're talking really bad wind, so it kind of takes the wind right out of your sails a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of causes weird shit going on, you
Mm.
know. With everything going on, even the wind, which, can sometimes really affect people.
Mhm.
uh, it can kind of mess with our energy levels, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
I've done a talk on Noom about keeping your sparkle, which is basically keeping your energy. How do we keep our sparkle regardless of everything that's going on?
Regardless of the wind.
Mhm. Trying, we were watching a woman walking, and seriously, her hair was like 3 feet ahead of her. It's bad out there. But, I think we get so caught up in everything that is going on externally to us.
Hmm.
And you know what? I think when we do that, our energy level shifts, it starts to maybe feel depleted. We don't have any sparkle left, or it's barely a little.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, there's so many things that can impact it, but I do think there's a lot going on in our world today. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people that are feeling overwhelmed, and you can't blame them. And I know today, like I say, the wind really puts a damper on things for me. But to maintain my sparkle today, I might need an extra coffee.
I think the thing is that I think what you said was really important because you were able to identify
Mhm.
what that external stimuli is that is impacting your energy level.
Hmm. I think that that's true. Like we say, so many things going on. A lot of people constantly looking at news, and news can really overwhelm the senses sometimes. So,
Oh, yeah.
you hear people I mean, it's good to stay informed, but I think a lot of people watch it, repeatedly, and it can just really
And,
have an impact.
and what's very fascinating to me is, and I tell people, be aware when you're watching the news. It will feel like overwhelming and like, oh my God, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, all those things. But if you pay attention, it's the same story being repeated with a different heading. Same thing. If it is so horrible, why do we have to keep repeating the same story? If there's all this stuff going on in the world, and there's so much going on in the world, we're picking and choosing what we're spoon feeding to the public. And I don't care what news station it is or it doesn't matter. We're still giving information and everybody puts their own spin on it. But once again, and I work with this with my clients because sometimes they can get really overwhelmed. And trust me, their sparkle kind of starts to fizzle out a little bit. And they're like, well, I'm tired. I don't have motivation. Well, of course, because you're allowing these external stimuli to impact your internal. You're
Mhm.
letting that be the driving force of you.
Yeah.
If I'm letting that be the driving force of me, I am not meeting my goals. I am not living my purpose.
Hmm. And when you're so distracted by those things, you don't even realize the energy that you're feeding it, how that impacts you, even if it's something that you're just sharing with someone else that you read or whatever. I mean, a lot of times it has such a negative connotation, and I think we don't realize how that energy sticks on us, and it really can impact our sparkle.
And I think the main thing being is that when we always talk about whatever you're feeding is what's going to grow.
Hmm.
And we don't understand when we're feeding that, it's not just feeding, it's encompassing all of who we are.
Hmm.
People think, I'm just watching it. It does. Oh, yes, it does. Trust me, it infiltrates your whole entire system because we are one unit. We are one unit.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the things that I've been seeing that people post on social media is that their anxiety is increasing. And you can see, I mean, people are dealing stuff with stuff in their personal lives, but then they're so caught up in what's happening all around the world. And I think it's just adding to stress.
Well, and I think the other thing is once again, we have to always talk about what is it I control? And I always tell people, ask yourself that question when you're seeing this. And I'll ask my clients, do you control any of this? The answer is no. What do you control? The kind of, I said, you control your energy and your energy output. I said, that is our greatest power. We control that. And no matter what is happening external to us, if we stop and say, wait a minute, I don't control this, but what I do control is how I'm going to interact with everybody around me. But more importantly, how am I interacting internally with me? Because if I'm feeding that negative crap into my head.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there are ways to feed the peace within you, even with the storm going on. And I really feel like last week, I know that we had talked to several people who had been paying attention to, the things that were going on and reading the news and just kind of feeling uptight. And I know that you were dealing with that with work too. And we stopped and did a meditation and shifted focus. And I felt so much better. And it gave me a little bit of clarity on what, when you were talking about the things that you control and the things that you don't. And I thought, what can I focus on? What can I shift my focus on? That's about me and my goals and what I want. And we started working on our house and clearing out some space. And I had this awareness when I was doing the meditation. I just felt like I just want to clear the space around me, the energy around me, and getting rid of things that we don't use or that it felt really good to put my focus on that and just dive into that. And you forget about the rest because this is what I can control.
Well, and I think the other thing is when so much of the time we're not focused on what we're doing. 10 moves later, 12 years later, we're still moving the same stuff that we don't even use.
Yeah.
And how many out there are guilty and everybody's ever raised their hand? Yeah, that's me.
Yes. My cousin had put something on about that her daughter cleaned out the spice cabinet, and I guess they had like multiple mustard something in there that they had traveled with different moves for they didn't know how long. And I had made a comment to her too that it wasn't that long ago I was cleaning out the cabinet and there were like 6 or 7 bottles of mustard in there, regular mustard. And I'm like, we don't even use mustard. How did we get all these? And how long have they been with us? A long
You know
time.
what? It's those thought one should not be wasteful.
Yeah.
So then we move stuff, and guess what? It's still wasteful because we're not going to use it.
Yeah.
But those are really good points. And we did do the meditation because it was kind of an overwhelming week. My clients were kind of dysregulated, and it's the uncertainty. This is the thing. When people are uncertain, they go into a place of anxiety and stress and trying to outcalculate or something. I don't even know what it is. And realizing that we don't have that. All we have is this moment. And what am I doing in this moment? How do I shift my focus to what do I do? What can I in this moment do? And we said we can in this moment meditate. Let's meditate. Let's shift the focus. Let's really clear that out. And it's amazing how that happens. That is the power of meditation. But then what we also do, and we talk about this on a daily, we live our life in a place of gratitude.
Yeah.
And when you're able to do that, gratitude opens the possibilities. Gratitude is not done in a negative.
Right.
Okay. And so when you do that, it changes the messages, the way the neurotransmitters actually are firing. So those are the things, when we're talking, it's like, what are we doing? Why do we continue to allow this external stuff? Now, for some people, is it scary? Absolutely. Absolutely. And not to minimize that. Right. No, a lot of things taking place are impacting people on a personal level. Absolutely.
But to stay in a place of like panic mode or that, I mean, that's coming from a place of survival and your brain.
To the limbic system, the lizard brain and its fight or flight mentality, and you're having cortisol dumps and Your beta's getting all even more out of wackadoo, and it's not helping you. It is sitting down really insane and helping yourself to feel empowered when you are feeling powerless. But you are feeling powerless because you are allowing external stimuli to impact you internally. And if it is, it's sitting down saying, oh, what can I do in this moment? Oh, my kitchen needs cleaned, or I can do that. Oh, I have gratitude for kindness and love and compassion. Put out the energy signal. This is the thing, people, this isn't some woo-woo philosophy, or it's not. This is the thing. We emit energy. Your brain, your heart is an electrical impulse. It is an energy. And that's why when sometimes you get around people and you can just feel they're energetic, they're alive, they got some sparkle going on. They're like that disco ball. But we have to learn to be that disco ball because this is what we have. But when we're fighting the external stuff, we're also fighting our internal.
Yeah.
We're creating a battle that doesn't need to be there. There's always going to be external battles going on, and a lot of them that are totally outside of our control.
Right.
And we'll just touch on that because we don't do political. If it's a political thing, then find out, what can I do? What do I have the power to do? Guess what? Everybody can, if you don't like something, contact your representatives.
Right.
Do that on a daily. Do it every day if it makes you feel better and powerful. That you have control over. If you're in a relationship that is sucking you dry and it's been continuous, but you sit there and say, oh yeah, but I'm supposed to stick with this relationship because, you know, you make your bed, you're laying it, and all those other stupid things that we hear throughout our life. And I call them stupid because people are living unhappy, unhealthy lives based on some criteria made by some random people that don't even exist anymore. So until we get to that place where we can change some of this, relationships are the same thing. If you're in relationships that are sucking you dry and have drained your sparkle, then you better figure out something else to do. You have power in that. Either set boundaries, work on the parameters of the relationship, or sometimes we have to leave them.
Start by having the conversation, see where that person is at. If you're not willing to grow together, it might be a problem.
You know, I was having this conversation with a client, and one of the things, it's about holding on to relationships. I said, we have to understand that a lot of relationships are transient. Most things in our life are transient. They come, they stay in our life for as long as they have to. And when we learn to let them go, they will have value. If we hold on, now we're just getting into the ugly of things, and we don't need that. It is detrimental to us. It is detrimental to our mental health. It is detrimental to our spirituality and our physical health. So those are things you can control. If you're at a shitty job, and I've heard that a lot this week, and you're there like, oh, but I have to have the paycheck. Well, what good is a paycheck when you're gonna waste all that money that you're making on the hospital bill because you're so freaking stressed?
Right.
Those are things you can control. But it is fear that holds us back. But once again, fear is our creation in a way.
And yeah, I think also looking at the expectations of others. I mean, we're afraid to disappoint, and sometimes we're on a path and we find ourselves there and we've traveled so far on it, and we think if we stop now, we look at it as a failure, and that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes we outgrow the idea of what we thought we were aspiring to be and realize maybe that's not what we want.
You know, how many times do college students go to college and they just go in there knowing, oh, nope, this is what I'm going to do? 7 times is the average for college students to change their mind. And what happens is a lot of times they'll take, oh, I'm going to just take that elective class. It's not really that important, blah, blah, blah. They take it, they fall in love.
Right.
They find their passion and their purpose.
Change their major a few more times.
And I think that's the thing. We're always practicing. We're always looking in life to evolve.
Exactly.
And in order to make that evolution happen, we have to stop and take accountability for what we're allowing to come into our mind and the thoughts.
The pressures that we put on ourselves.
We're reading a book. What's it called?
The Secret of the Millionaire Mind, I
or
believe.
yeah, but I love in there he has this visual. And so every time you have a negative statement, he tells you to take your go,
Yeah.
because basically that's what you're doing. You're cutting yourself off.
Every time you're complaining or blaming or doing those kind of things, then you are feeding that attention. You are giving your energy to that. And really, all it is detrimental to you.
You're cutting off your head, basically.
Yeah.
You're damaging yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh, let me tell you, there are days sometimes I'm there like, so that's only when I don't have my sparkle on. But most times I have my sparkle on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I tell my clients. My clients sometimes, do you have bad? I choose not to have bad days. I'll
Yeah.
have bad moments.
Right. And I think that a lot of people will do that, kind of just go overboard and say, oh, it was a really bad day. And maybe it was just a bad moment. But we amplified it. Our attention that we gave it and our response to it makes it so much bigger.
Oh my God. And I love that when we're working with people, whether it's in as a therapist or in our coaching business, when you hear them and they'll be able to identify that, no, I had a bad moment. And it's okay if I have that day where I want to stay in bed or do whatever. That's okay because it's my choice. It's not because I'm having a bad day.
But we have the power to shrink that situation down
Absolutely.
or blow it up and, feel all of that.
And I think that's what it is. When we learn that we are the power behind this, and we realize that, oh my God, I'm getting all worked up over anything. And I love it because, we'll do it sometimes too. If there's something going on, we might, oh my goodness, insurance. That sometimes can be an issue, but we'll have that flare up and then they're like, oh my God, what are we doing? All you can do, you've done your calls, you've done what you can. Really just sit back and wait.
Mm-hmm.
I have no control over that. But I do control if I'm going to stay in a crappy mood all day about it. And my crappy mood, guess what? Does not change the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So all it's done is created a crappy day on top of a situation that didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
So I always ask people, did your mood, did your worry, did your bad mood, did that change anything? The answer is no, it didn't change anything external to me. It just changed what I was doing internally. But now when you ask them, if you switch your thinking and you go to that positive place, that energy place of shifting your focus to what you can do, and you do it, and you do even one thing and you accomplish one thing, you've made a change.
Exactly. Your sparkle starts to come back.
Yeah, we were there like, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff we have to donate.
Mm-hmm. And that was another thing that helped me too, because I thought, there's a lot of people that could be using these things. So that still helped me to think the things that we're gathering, we're going to help somebody else by giving this stuff because we're not using it. Maybe somebody can.
And it's funny because, one of the things we really shifted a long time ago is, when you pay your electric bill, you pay this, you pay that, whatever. We have gratitude for the electricity.
Oh
I
my
don't want to
God.
be in the dark, people. I don't want to use a lantern.
Always doing gratitude statements for things like that. And I think that it's stuff that a lot of times people take for granted, but I mean, unless you live in California, and I know they have those rolling blackouts and things like that. And that's something to be mindful of. I feel like it's something I'm very grateful for.
Well, and I think the other thing we've even taken a step further is like when we pay our bills, we remember that that's also paying somebody's salary.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gets to take their kids to on a vacation or put them in Little League or whatever it is they want to do. That's a contribution to that. And when you start looking at you are a part of the contribution, you stop looking at things as a problem.
Yeah, like somebody's trying to take advantage of you by charging you this or that. There is ways to change your thinking around these things, and I promise you, it'll only benefit you.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And when we talk, this is stuff that we do.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's coming in to work on our home, we're grateful for it. And it's like, oh, great, wonder what they're going to do with that money. Each person, yeah, for everybody, it's different. But, it's even knowing your worth and knowing your value. Those things are important.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hear people complain, well, they're not paying me what I'm supposed to get and all this and that. So, okay, go negotiate, go do what you got to do.
And you have to advocate for yourself. I mean, we've talked about that many times. The whole job world has changed and that, and you really do have to have a voice for yourself.
It's funny because we were talking to somebody and they were saying about, way in the back in the day, employer-employee relationship looked really different. Businesses looked different. There was a loyalty and a respect between employer and employee. And so what it was is when you did a good job, you didn't have to go ask, you didn't have to wait for some yearly eval. Oftentimes the employer would just come and say, you know what, John, you've done a good job. Sally, we're going to promote you or we're going to give you an increase in salary. Well, that doesn't work that way anymore. There is really a disconnect between a lot of employer and employees.
Yeah.
It's called lack of communication, people. But anyway, that's all of the story. But that's what it is. And it's when even in that, I see people come in and we talk to a lot of people and they're disgruntled because of the work environment, the boss, the this, the that. Well, and so you go in there and you be in a bad mood. How is that helping you? It's not. You got to keep your sparkle.
Yeah.
And I have a client who works some kind of a weird thing, and same thing, very negative energy, as he calls it. He goes, it's just negative. But he continues, and I'm there like, we've worked on it. He can only control you, what you do. He goes in there with a positive attitude, whether people are nice or not nice. He just, I'm happy. And those are the things we do.
Yeah.
It's not about somebody else. And when we stop making other people more relevant than you, and that's what it is. If somebody's rude, well, I get to be rude back. Okay, yeah, you can. Now we have two rude people and now we have shitty energy.
And all that does is escalate, and it does not help either party.
Exactly. So that's why it is important to identify and take accountability and responsibility for what you are doing in your contribution to your mood and your contribution to that negative energy that is around you. And energy perpetuates energy.
Yeah.
So you know how they say, if you do certain things, it brings certain things to you. Well, it's the same thing. If you're sitting there being negative and you're not feeling good about yourself and all that, then you wonder why the people around you are being similar or acting this way. You're setting the energy stage.
Exactly. Think of yourself as a magnet.
Oh, that's a perfect way of doing it.
That
Yes.
magnetic energy is going to come back to you. So what you're putting out, that's what you're going to receive.
And when we don't pay enough attention to it, that's where we get stuck. So I always tell people, just start with asking yourself the question, is this a problem I can fix or not fix? Am I responsible or not responsible? Usually the answer is no. And then I'll ask them, well, why did you just spend 2 days working or feeling something about something you don't have any control over?
Right.
And it's not about beating yourself up. It's about practice. How do I practice to stay in these things? And I was talking to a client Wednesday, I think, Thursday, whatever day, I don't know. Anyway, we were talking about that very negative energy, and even his energy levels really low. They're like, dude, you're carrying that energy everywhere you go. I said, do you think that energy is now not in your home? And he goes, oh my God, it is. I said, because you're allowing a job that you may have in 5 years or you may not. You may not even have it in 2 months. You don't even like it that much, but you're investing. And that's the word. It's our investment. You're investing a lot of time and energy into something that may not even be relevant in a little bit. But guess what? Hopefully your family's going to be around. You've got kids. You're always going to be the parent to those kids. But do you know what I mean? It's just kind of crazy. And you see this and it's like, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. And I don't think that people realize the power that they have in setting the example. When you were saying about kids, how you handle things, how you deal with things, the words you use, they are paying attention, even when you think they're not.
And even as a parent, and I think it was interesting that you were listening to a podcast, Yo Quiero Dinero, and they were talking about that and the single parent building this.
Yeah, she's a life coach, and she has been before that, she was doing blogging and that, but she's always been working on her business. And Janice asked her, how do you deal with the guilt that a lot of times women deal with when they have small children and they're building a brand or whatever? They're spending a lot of time on that and they feel guilty. They feel like it takes away from time with the kids. And her response to that was that she felt like that the example that she was setting by making a way for herself and for them, that was setting the example of that mindset that they are going to need to be successful in their lives. She was saying that when she does get to spend time with them, then it's about quality. It's not always necessarily about the quantity. She is setting an example for them to be responsible too and see a different way of doing things. And that's valuable.
And I think those are the things that are important. And this whole thing is about how do you keep your sparkle in your light and darkness. And hopefully we've addressed some of that stuff. It starts internally with you. What are you going to do differently? What do you have the power to do? And if you find what you have the power to do, then do it. But take accountability and responsibility for all of those things that you are doing. It is so important. Okay.
When you're feeling overwhelmed, see what you can shift your focus on.
Meditation.
Yes, like I say, that personal thing, that you can do that makes you feel active, in an active participant, and feel like you have control in some aspect. Like I said, us clearing the energy, that just feels good.
And the other thing is listening to podcasts, reading uplifting things, learning. There's so many resources out there. Use them.
Learning new things.
So if you want to find us, you can find us at
newgirlsinapod.com. We would love for you to subscribe and tell others about this podcast. If you do subscribe, you will receive an email whenever we have a new episode. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. And also Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod Life's Journey is on YouTube.
So we appreciate you, and we want the likes and all that because we want to be liked too. No. Anyway, y'all, come on, get your sparkle on, be the best version of who you can be, and let's not let the outside world darken our inside sparkle. Thank you so much, and we will be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.